this land before us. Indiana was the historic homeland of many Native American tribes, including the Shawnee, Miami, Potawatomi, Delaware, Wyandotte, Kickapoo.
Good morning, PUL fans, and welcome to the home debut of the Indianapolis Red here April 25th, 2026. We're excited to bring you this contest between the Indianapolis Red and the visiting Philadelphia Surge. I'm Charlie Lowe, back again for another exciting Red season. With me, as always, is Kristen KK Covick. KK, how are you?
Greetings. I'm so good. Look at this weather. This is the best home game weather I think we've ever had.
I was talking to producer Heath about that earlier. Truly, I don't think we've ever had weather this good. And, hopefully that's a sign of a great game to come. More importantly, and we can get right to it, hopefully we're looking at a Red win coming in today. Red suffering kind of a tough loss to the Monarchs a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I think that one hurt, but it's those tough games at the beginning of the season that build character. So I think that they have a lot of adjustments to make, but they can do it. They're a resilient team. We know that they have a lot of travel players that come in, and their whole strategy, their whole culture is to adjust real time.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've seen some roster turnover for the team this year. There are some Indy mainstays that are, taking more of a backseat role, joining the team as practice players this year, and allowed us to bring on some other players. We're talking about the Monarchs, so, off the bat, Eileen Beckett, Lena Montenegro, two huge names for those who followed the PUL for a long time. What are we looking for them to bring to the team this year?
Well, I was taking a look at stats from last game, and Eileen her plus-minus was 6, highest of all the players. And you'll see the way that Eileen plays all over the place. Defense, huge hucks, cutting, offense, defense, but primarily a defender. I'm really looking forward to Eileen's impact today. I think that she's going to have a big impact. And then Lena, of course, is a steady hand, looking to kind of play more in the backfield, primarily center handler for the D-line. So I know Lena will also be matching up against the Surge offensive handlers and giving them some pressure in the handler space.
Absolutely. And, ahead of this week, we're going to try to do kind of a coach's spotlight each week, highlighting one of the coaches for the Indy Red. And this week we had the opportunity to talk with hometown boy, but making his home coaching debut with the Indy Red, Joe Nelson Byerly. Local, went to Purdue. We had the chance to talk to him about some of the matchups that he's got his eyes on. And Eileen, one of those matchups that he brought up, looking for her to have a big impact, especially on Grace Maroon and Veronica K-Spa for the Surge. Talk to us a little bit about how you see, Eileen approaching those matchups, how you think, things we should be looking for.
That's a good question. Well, Eileen has size, which is really good because Surge is a very tall team. And we do have tall players on our team, but a lot of them play on our O-line. So Eileen takes a lot of those tall matchups. So, we're going to see, let's see here. Yeah, we have the very tall handler receiver for Surge D-line. I'm blanking on her name right now.
One of the tallest members of that team, Linda Morse.
Yeah. Yep. So Linda's going to be a huge receiver and also shoots deep for the end zone. So, yeah.
Yeah. One of the things I know, we've got college regionals going on, and kind of luckily for both of these teams, a lot of the players that they're pulling from the college division from the USAU college division are available this week. So we've got players like Berkeley Humphreys available, making her home debut for the Red. It also means on the other side, we're not afraid to be kind of a homer cast here. We've got to deal with the likes of Grace Maroon, who is on an absolute tear with UPenn this year. Joe pointing that out as a matchup to look out for. Grace Maroon doesn't really play tied to one position. Eileen's going to have her work cut out for it, looks like.
Yeah, and there are, from my understanding, 3 UPenn people who are playing on Surge this year. So Surge also has a younger roster, just like Red does. So it'll be interesting to see kind of those younger players match up against each other. So Wagner, Maroon, and Abby Smith all coming from UPenn and, you know, having that chemistry, college chemistry, which is great.
Absolutely. You know, as we've kind of taken a look at some of the roster turnover this year, also important to highlight some of the roster pickups. Missing from the Surge for this particular game, World Games for Team USA, Carolyn Normile. However, don't know how much, you know, we're going to be worried about the production she would bring, because Red are going to have their hands full with the production of Lisa Dang and Graham Cunningham, 2 of the imports from the DC Shadow.
Yeah, watching Normile play and the rest of the Surge roster play against Strike in their last home game, with Normile in, it looked like their gameplay is very fast, snappy, quick. They hit really tight windows, and they don't really look off things that look not open. So I don't know. I'm very interested to see how that's going to look for their offense, if that's going to be the same quickness in their offense, where Red, I think, is more methodical. You know, they have players who like to take their time, look downfield, find the open player, set up their cuts. So these are 2 very different offensive teams. It'll be interesting to see how they kind of juxtapose against each other today.
The team that can get out there and dictate their preferred pace of play is going to be the one that wins today.
Yeah.
There's just the lightest of breezes outside. The sun is shining. The tank is clean. When we don't have conditions to worry about, it really comes down to, you know, a team's mettle, their ability to control the pace, to play their game. You know, in this battle of kind of snappiness versus steadiness, you know, let's hope that we get a little bit of the tortoise victory here and some of that steadiness prevails today. Yeah, getting a glimpse on a slow, light breeze flirting with the ever-fabled thrower's wind.
And this will be interesting because the only game that Red has played so far, they've only played 1 game, was incredibly windy, and they played an upwind, downwind game the whole time, and they threw zone almost the whole time. And looks like we have Surge pulling, and Red is on offense to start.
Exciting. We're going to get our first look at Tracy Lowe making their season debut with the Red, notably missing from the last game, coaching at college conferences with the University of Michigan. It'll be exciting to get a look at Tilo today, and you and I know Tilo pretty well at this point from calling games for a long time. Absolutely somebody who's going to get out and capitalize on this kind of weather.
To start the game, we have Surge pulling to Red.
One thing that I wanted to note, too, was when I was watching Surge play their last home game, was they didn't necessarily have set O and D lines, and they had a lot of players who would rotate in and out. It kind of seemed like they had pod lines where they have one kind of set pod and they play O and D. They rotate through O and D pretty regularly.
And we'll get our first look at that as we are live. Rachel Mast with the disc here on the close to the low sideline, advancing the disc up to Tilo. And we're already getting an early look at the Reds' willingness to swing the disc back and forth. But there's a block. Philly Surge already capitalizing with some of that sharp and snappy defense that they've been known for this season. Worth pointing out that Surge's first game was a 23-6 victory over the Nashville Nightshade. Perhaps a little bit overmatched, but Anna Harnage coming through with that block for Philly early, and getting our first look today at Lindsay McKenna with the disc on that high sideline.
Oh.
So a quick interruption to play, and then we get going again. Disc is advanced up the field by the Surge. really taking their time, working the disc with quick fakes. And we're seeing a lot of Lindsay McKenna kind of marshaling for them in the backfield.
And Jean is marking McKenna, which is an interesting matchup. I mean, McKenna is also, clearly a very tall player, but both of them handle. Jean notably is the offensive center handler for the last home game that she played in, getting over 33 touches, the most touches of any player.
Surge content to kind of pass back and forth here, waiting for that good look to come open to them in the backfield. Is that going to be it? 2 players, 1 catch. Zoe Costanza reels in the goal, and that is an opening break for the Philadelphia Surge.
That was such a nice throw out to space to make sure that no defender could get their hands on it. It went right over everybody, over to the break side for Surge to run onto. Really nice patience offense for Surge.
Yeah, so we see Emily Moeller lines up that shot, gets a little bit of float. Like we said, there's just a light breeze today, but Zoe Costanza able to run that one down. Zoe Costanza, last year for Haverford Bryn Mawr, one of the kind of most dominant players that we saw in D3, and brings her talents to the Surge this season. And the Red are going to get their first opportunity here at home to recalibrate, go out and search for this clean hold opportunity.
One thing that Joe mentioned was that they're looking to clean up the small things. He was like, this O-line has played together. We have quite a few hybrid players. They know how to play well. It's just about cleaning up the small mistakes and really executing well, less turnovers. It kind of seemed like that last point they were on a roll, and then maybe one kind of poor look. It's hard not to throw it to McKenna. I'm not going to lie. I'm sure you see McKenna slightly open, you want to throw it, but it looks like Surge is really working nice defense in the small windows.
Yeah, we're seeing a pretty heavy poach game coming from this Surge. 2 players there looking to stop that kind of first throw off the centering pass, and that's the kind of defense that the Surge are going to bring. The Red are going to need to figure out how to bring that steadiness in, and kind of take an extra second to evaluate.
We have a fresh O-line coming in. Starting O-line had those 2 first chances, and looks like we have the starting D-line coming in to relieve this offensive line, see if they can get themselves in the end zone.
Yeah, so that goal there, that was number 73, Chelsea Semper, to Liv Steinberg, who was kind of all alone in the end zone. KK, when you go out and kind of get, hit in the mouth to start that game, kind of find yourself in an early hole, what kind of things should we be looking for to recalibrate?
So Indy Red's culture, their main focuses here are focus on what you can control. You can control your effort. You can control your enthusiasm. There are some mistakes that are going to be made. That's part of this. And I think Red is still kind of trying to find their rhythm. They're trying to find their identity. They have new players coming from different places. They have different cohorts. And that's always been Red's MO. They have a lot of travel players. So the beginning of the season is always a little wonky because they're trying to gel all these players together.
And as we take the opportunity to, we see the Surge settling into a little bit of a junky defense to start, stopping some of those initial pull plays before melting into a much more recognizable person defense, forcing here to the low side. And we're getting a different look. Champ Reigns in the backfield, kind of marshaling our offense here for the Indy Red. And there's yet
number 7 with the D.
Faye Epstein coming up with yet another block. 3 offensive points, 3 quick blocks for the Philly Surge, and everything going Philadelphia's way today.
Philly's zone is very similar to Red's. They both run a 3-3-1 zone, but Surge has such strength working in the tight windows and anticipating the next throw in the zone. So Red is going to really have to tighten up their throws and their execution.
We know the Red like to look deep. We know that they like to bust out the big guns, so to speak, and these junk sets that the Philadelphia Surge are coming with are effectively stopping those and forcing the Red to play a little bit tighter than perhaps they were ready to early in these points. And we're getting our first timeout taken so we can get our first full line substitution. And we will be right back after this quick commercial break. Today's stream is brought to you by Discraft. The Discraft Ultrastar is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports.
Downtown Indy. Take a break from the grind and
Today's game is presented by Tomio Media, delivering high-quality storytelling for Indy Red on and off the field. Discover what Tomio Media can do for your brand or team at tomiomedia.com. We are also brought to you by City Yoga. City Yoga School of Health and Yoga is a locally owned yoga studio nestled in a peaceful residential neighborhood in downtown Indy. Take a break from the grind and focus on your well-being this summer. Use code RED25, all lowercase, at checkout and enjoy your first yoga class free. Scan the QR code to book. And we're back here. Philly Surge, if you're listening to the game, moving right to left. Lisa Dang with the disc in her hand. DC Shadow import up the field to Lindsay McKenna, guarded by Riley Kuznicki. Surge doing an excellent job getting separation, especially on some of these upline cuts so far. McKenna, no breathing room. Upline stopped. And there's our first turnover from the Philly Surge.
That's a nice gift that Red can take. Hopefully they can capitalize. I would really love to see them try to stretch it deep here. At least try to get Surge, you know, if there's any turn, which all of the mistakes or turnovers here have been on undercuts. Eileen looking big, deep.
And it's just
for
not
Isabel.
And it's just not gonna come back. That disc never had the chance to fade back inside, but that's our first deep opportunity taken by the Red, and honestly, it's gonna force the Surge to set up and approach the probably the longest field that they've seen so far today.
So it's clear to me now that Dang is working in the middle of the field for Surge, kind of replacing the Normile hole that needed to be filled.
A little bit of a bobble on the far sideline, but reeled in by the Surge. Right back in the middle, Graham Cunningham operating primarily in the backfield for them today. Soaring grab there from Lindsay McKenna. She kind of comes at the disc full power. It's the kind of attacking the disc that we're going to need the Red to approach with. Disc moving comfortably up the field to Linda Morse. And what we're seeing from the Surge is pretty calm, methodical offense. They're moving with a sense of urgency, but once each player has the disc in their hand, they are as calm and collected as can be. Layout attempt by Eileen Beckett doesn't come up with anything. And there's another goal from the Surge. They're going to go up 3-0 here to start this contest. And that's Lindsay McKenna with the goal here. And as we get our replay calibrated to get another look.
Their third point. Indy Red still looking for their first. We've got another shout out from our fans. Let's go, Abby and Graham.
Yeah, so we see Grace Maroon catch the disc there on the upline. And then advances the disc up to Lindsay McKenna for the goal. Lindsay McKenna making her presence felt early and often here for the Surge. And the Red, a golden opportunity here to reset and approach the game like it's 0-0, KK.
It looks like their Surge D1 line is going to be able to take a breather. And the Surge defense, you know, they have 18 players here in Indianapolis today. So they have, you know, enough players to do full roster subs in and out, give players breaks. It's enough to get people rest to come back and play at their best.
Roll or pull goes out of bounds on the low sideline, and LG is going to bring the disc in for the red. We're already seeing a little bit of this cup defense from the surge.
And you see number 24 for red, Abby Swenson, back after recovering from ACL injury. Took all of last season off, so it's really nice to see Abby on the field right now.
Surge feeling confident. Abby starts streaking deep, but Tilo doesn't have an opportunity to get it and put it. And we're getting open cuts. You're seeing the red attack spaces. We're getting some of these wide open cuts, but the surge really doing a good job of containing the disc to the middle of the field. LG swings the disc to Tilo. Tilo loads up. High soaring flick. It's going to float a little bit. Able to get underneath it, Rachel Mast. And that's the first time we've talked about her today, and hopefully we're going to be saying a lot more of her name. Disc advance up the field, and that's a goal for the Indy Red. Sydney Squid Logren with the goal.
Had to take the last game off due to a concussion. So really nice to have Squid back. High percentage goal scorer, really squirrely in the end zone, really squirrely as a cutter. But also, you know, is really reliable as well with the disc in her hands.
For the first point for Indy Red.
Having Squid back is nice.
Check those bingo cards. Tilo gave us a deep throw. All right, and we've got some shout outs from the crowd, from the Philly side. They said, thanks to the Indy Red community. Thank you for the hospitality by providing a Wawa on the way.
And there it is. That's the monkey off the bat, KK. Indy Red able to go out and get a hold, and most importantly, a clean hold. First clean hold of the game. Something that's going to be incredibly important. When we look at our last game against the Monarchs, the clean holds between each team were even. It was the lack of break chances that the Red had, one less than the Monarchs, and thus they're not able to complete that comeback. But here, Annie Mylink pulling to open the gate, to open this point. Our first look at a real honest-to-goodness Red D-line.
With a zone, their classic 3-3-1-Z. So you have working in the wall, very actually similar to Surge's. And there's an opportunity there.
And we're going to get our first break opportunity for the Indy Red. The zone works, disc just a little bit too high and too far for Sarah Hiranet.
Red coaches call a timeout.
You know, I think that they're going to go out and give the O-line an opportunity to rest and see what this D-line can do on offense. Risa Umeno with the disc in the middle field swings to Jello.
This offense, the defensive offense, likes to move a little faster than the Red offense. And we hear the timeout whistle. Called it.
All right, KK, that's 1 for you, 0 for me. We'll tally up the scores as we go through the season, but we're going to get our first substitution from the Indy Red. Take the opportunity in a red zone area to get an O-line in. And we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Today's stream is brought to you by Discraft. The Discraft Ultrastar is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports. We are back. Still in the middle of this timeout. Indy Red break opportunity, trying to make up this early deficit to the Philly Surge, down 3-1.
Indy Sports Team Photographer and Indy Red's official photography company. Doesn't matter what
Indy Red with an O, with a red zone opportunity, shifting the O-line back out. We're going to see Tracy Lowe standing over the disc. Hybrid running mate Laura L.G. Gerens are in the backfield with them. And a nice vertical stack. Rachel Mast a little bit offset at the front of the stack.
3 hybrid players ready to cook.
And cooking they are. For those of you that watch the PUL only, hybrid back-to-back defending champions in the mixed division of USA Ultimate, looking to make it 3. Try to do something we've only ever seen Michael Jordan do.
And you see a pretty clear play call where Mass peels off the front of the stack, and Tilo looking for Brittany Wright over on the break side. Back to Tilo. and all hybrid players working it until you see Jean for her first score of this game.
And there it is, break opportunity. Indy Red narrow the gap, down just one. We're going to get another look at a D-line.
You might be curious how an East Coast player like Jean got hooked up with Indy Red. And it was through the Masters team, Big Tendonitis.
We've got a very
really
special shout-out
fun,
as well.
kind of
Happy
local
birthday, Coach
Indianapolis-based Masters team put together by Emily Wyckoff and Jackie Lai. Jackie Lai, Indy Red coach, obviously. So that's kind of how that hookup happened. And also just playing around Big Ten. A lot of these players have played with each other, against each other their whole life.
KK, you're on Big Tendonitis.
I am. Yeah, we're going to London this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. You know, they went down the pecking order. We got 5th at Masters Nationals last year, so we kind of talked about it when we were there, and we're like, yes, we're in if we get asked, so we're going to go.
Tuning back in, low pass reeled in by the Surge. Starting maybe to finally feel a little bit of the pressures as they have to go out and face D-lines. Allie Milligan still a little bit unflappable as they're kind of settle in. There's Graham Cunningham in the middle of the field. Doesn't like the swing or the jab up the middle of the zone. Linda Morse taking an opportunity to drop into the backfield. One of the things that the Surge are very comfortable doing is shifting people in and out of different positions. Rarely do you see somebody take just a downfield or just a backfield position.
It's very true.
Scything cut over to the high side of the field, and Surge starting to really make some progress. Eileen Beckett, big pressure, but there's the throw ahead to Taylor Conroy. Takes all the time in the world to reel that in. A clean hold from the Philly Surge. Keep the lead at 2. With about 2 minutes left here in this first quarter.
With the zone that is more of a 3-3-1 or wall, the whole point of that is to prevent the throws coming through the middle. So they're trying to make Surge swing it big, wide, left to right, but Surge doesn't seem to have a problem finding the small holes. And kind of like I said earlier, is they will throw it to people even if they have the slightest window. They really trust their players to go and attack, which is a really big strength of theirs, and also gives them the ability to find rhythm because they catch the throw, they turn. They catch, they throw, they turn. Where if you catch it, turn, and then you look off a throw or two, you lose rhythm, and the defense has time to reset their zone.
It's one of those moments where we go back to pace of play being one of the most important factors in this game. PUL is up. There's Tilo a little bit closer to the high side of the field right now, guarded by Zoe Costanza. An immediate adjustment from the Red, doing a little bit more of some of these waterfalling dump passes, looking to keep the disc moving and not really giving any of the defenders an opportunity to set their feet, set a mark.
Red has quite a lot of undercuts happening, not a ton of deep cuts happening at the same time. So they're really working that underspace. Great cut by Squid, working to get Moeller kind of off of her a couple yards.
LG charging up that big flick until she finally has an opportunity for the swing. There's Matamore in the corner. Low pass, but dug out by LG. Goodness gracious.
Oh, that's Jean, number
by
30.
Jean.
Striking towards the end zone. Jean for another goal. Look at her go. You know, you don't see handlers scoring multiple points in a row all the time, especially on an O-line.
Yeah, Jean Wong really taking the reins for the Red there at the end of that point. Quick offensive movement leads to a goal. That's another clean hold for the Red. Offense is starting to settle in as we get another look. And Matamore doesn't have to do anything except loft that pass up just ahead of Jean. Reels it in. Offense is easy. Red down 1 to the visiting Surge, 4-3.
I don't know if it was concentration or a bit of fatigue, but it seemed as though Surge was kind of backing the red players. I don't know if that's a strategy that they're trying to do or if maybe there's a little tiredness starting to trickle in.
So as this game starts to get going, worth noting some of the stat leaders for this season. Important to note that the Surge have played 2 more games than the Red, but, Lindsay McKenna, second on the leaderboard for assists for the PUL this season. Rachel Alfano plays for the Surge, number 2 on the goals leaderboard, but not here this week. So we'll get to pay attention to who kind of picks up some of that goal scoring. Right now, Surge content to spread it around, and we're going out on offense. Crafty cut from Grace Maroon. Disc moving comfortably and easy, much more of a person defense this time from the Red. And there it is, layout block.
Attempt by Eileen and successful.
Eileen Beckett really making her presence felt. The Monarchs import.
Champ picking up, looking for Annie Mylink. And then to Jello. With 30 seconds on the clock. Out of bounds called. I think Eileen saw the cones and thought that was the line. Oh, that's so unfortunate towards the end of a quarter because it's possession play at the end of every quarter. Any team that has possession gets to play at that point for a score or a drop.
So Surge, with no time on the clock left, get to essentially play a free offensive point. And it doesn't matter. Disc sails just past number 23, Lisa Dang. And that's going to bring our first quarter to an end. Surge up 1, 4-3 on the home Indianapolis Red.
Pretty surprising after that first, Surge getting those first 3 breaks at the beginning. The score is quite close with maybe the disheartened feeling that Red might have been feeling at the beginning of the game. So good on them for keeping their head up and staying in it.
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with quarter 2 action here, streaming for the Premier Ultimate League. Everyone's Joy Photography, UIndy sports team photographer and Indy Red's official photography company. Doesn't matter what you need, we got you covered at any event. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, or online at everyone'sjoyphotography.com. Today's game is also brought to you by Tappers. Hey, Indy Red fans. When the game ends, press continue at Tappers Arcade Bar, Indy's go-to spot for well-maintained arcade games, craft beer, and great cocktails.
"30 minutes over a cup of coffee. Queen to H5 at the park. Thumbs up emojis, clapping emojis, confetti emojis. Loaded nachos at halftime. A spin dash for the win. Best 2 out of 3. And the time it takes to enjoy a slice or 2, you can make a difference. Because yeah, mentorship sounds huge, but the truth is, it takes little to be big."
We're back. First to second quarter break here in this 2026 Premier Ultimate League season contest between the Indy Red and the Philadelphia Surge. If you're just tuning in, Surge got off to an early lead, ripping off a 3-0 run of breaks. Indy Red able to steady the ship, go on a 3-1 run of their own, and excited to see how the rest of this game plays out now that the teams are kind of finding their footing.
Now, you talked a little bit about some stats for some players at the end of the first quarter, and I just wanted to mention, I was looking at, so the PUL, they have public stats this year, which as a commentator I love, but also as a fan I love too, because it's fun to see a player's impact. It's sort of hard to see a player's impact in real time, and you can really see from the stats how a player is impacting a game. And I'm looking at team stats, and Philly Surge is just really kind of crushing it, top of the charts. They have a 90% hold percentage over the last 2 games, which is really impressive.
Means breaks are going to come at a premium, and we've got an opportunity here for the Red to go out and earn another one. Lexi Thomas on the mark for the Indy Red right now. And the Surge are doing such a good job of opening up space in the middle of the field as we see the disc go to Maroon and then back to Milligan. Big swing. Wynn picks it up. Are they going to get there? And they are. Lisa Dang digs that one up and out.
There was an air bounce that really helped keep that one alive, but also really impressive layout grab. (19) looking for give, go, action. 46, Cunningham ready to throw that lefty, and it was blocked. Graber, great D.
And we're
Graber, a practice player last year, getting more playing time this year.
As we get a look at this on screen, oh, it looks like they may have caught that. Depends on if you qualify that as stopped rotation or not. I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm out
looks
there,
like the edge of the disc is on the ground right at the same time that they had maybe stop rotation. That's going to be a tough one.
When you look at the player's hands in that replay, it doesn't look like they're fully stopping rotation there. I wouldn't be surprised if this one comes back out of a conversation. And it looks like that is the outcome that we're going to get.
Dang is doing a lot of work saving this point for Surge right now.
Yeah, 2 big digs for Lisa Dang in this point alone. And as we get one last look at this.
Bit closer. Oh, I don't know. It looks like it was a little bit of a bounce, but looks like play on.
There's the swing. One more. Lisa Dang with the prove it score. Surge are going to go up 5-3.
By Grace Maroon.
Grace Maroon having a big impact on this game. Lisa Dang really making her presence felt on that point. You know, sometimes you got to prove it. And sometimes disc doesn't lie. So maybe it was up.
Seems as though the wind is also a little gusty, not necessarily going crosswind or up and downwind, but looks like it might be gusting a little bit more. The flag is kind of going a little bit left to right from on your screen.
Yeah, as we continue progressing through this game, what started as a slow kind of, not too interfering of a wind, starting to get a little bit more of these gusts. Each of these teams being really comfortable running zone and shifting between that and person gives the defensive coaches a great opportunity to start figuring out how they can shift personnel, how they can adjust some of these zones and attack the game a little bit differently. Surge pull is up. High arcing pull stopped by the Red and moving right to left. Disc is in play. Jean Wong taking an opportunity, kind of sizing up this zone. A lot of space being yielded in the middle of the field. We'll see if the Red can adjust and start attacking through some of those small spaces. Little pick and pop offense never hurt anybody as we get that going. Jean Wong ahead. Gets it back to Tilo. Loads up the flick.
What a box out from Squid, who found the space. And Jean for another score. Look at her go. I think that we're Indy Red is stronger, when they are stretching it deep. We have a lot of really great receivers, maybe a little shorter than other defenders, but the skill that comes with, Squid showing everyone how to box out, but also keeping it safe. And Jean does a good job keeping that in the air when she catches it, so it's a score instead of having to throw an extra pass.
So off the downfield efforts of Squid, Sydney Logren, lofting it over to Jean Wong. The Red cut the deficit back to 1. Team's just trading holds now. Red still looking for another break opportunity to try to even this game up and put a little bit more pressure. Disc rolls past the first Surge player, Grace Maroon, but stopped in the backfield, and Graham Cunningham.
Do you see how far back the Surge handlers are starting to chisel through the wall? How many yards they gain when they go through the center?
By taking such opportunities to kind of let the Red offense get set up, they're then able to reaccelerate and pump these chisel cuts and these kind of like pistoning in and out cuts through the middle of the zone. But Indy Red starting to get the pressure on, and there's a turnover. Stone cold drop from Grace Maroon.
Not going to see that very often. This is a huge opportunity for Red.
And that's why you run a zone. It's not necessarily about going out and earning those blocks, but putting the pressure on those players who are playing a lot of points right now, especially
Timeout
for the Surge.
whistle. I was just about to make the bet if they were going to call a timeout. But it was successful for Red last time they called out on their own end zone. So they're going to put their offense out again.
With the timeout call.
We're going to take a quick break here, and we'll be right back. This live broadcast is brought to you by the Premier Ultimate League. The PUL is a 501c6 nonprofit. This league has been community funded since day one, and we are so grateful for the support. We ask that you consider donating to help us continue to transform and fulfill our mission. Head to premierultimateleague.com to donate today. We're back here. Indy Red offense getting set out of the timeout. Using it to shift in their O-line. We've got LG standing over the disc with Jean in the backfield. Looks like Makeda Matamore there at the front of the stack.
Completely different setup than they have. I mean, same vertical stack, but different people in each position. So Makeda going over to the break side, and you have Rachel next looking for the continue.
And Mass dusted her defender, but great job by the Surge defense knowing it was coming and locking up on the marks. There we are, Mass disc in the middle of the field. Throws a couple fakes, doesn't get anything open.
Keeping it really chilly.
There's Tilo laying out, getting the full slide. And there is our next break for the Indy Red. We are evened back up at 5s.
We got a game, folks.
Tilo with the big stretch.
And you start to see the importance of getting the offense settled. LG taking the opportunity. You mentioned getting kind of a different look at the offense there. Setting Tilo to that second or third in the stack means that player, normally ready to put a mark on in the backfield, Tilo has the chance to kind of lull that player to sleep, letting everybody else do the work in the backfield, and then it's just an easy peel off, a little bit upline from the front, able to go out and collect that throw. A little bit long, but Tilo's been playing the game just as long. Huge bid. Secures the goal, and we are even at 5s.
We already have Graber with her hand up ready to pull, trying to get the game going. In front of me is Coach Sydney's little baby, Callum, sitting right in front of us. Only 5 months old, I think. Coached all last year, pregnant. But Sydney is just a huge part of the Indy Red culture. She helps thread ideas and positivity in Indy Red. So she's a really important piece to the coaching staff and Red culture in general.
So Red zone locked in once again, kind of forcing Surge to do a lot of swinging the disc back and forth. There's a high arcing throw from Milligan all alone as Lindsay McKenna keeps it in bounds. Eileen Beckett all the way back there downfield for Red.
Surge looking to move it really quickly as they do.
Lexi Thomas putting a ton of pressure on the Surge. Grace Maroon not able to reel that one in. We're going to get another break opportunity here for the Red.
And Marine had a good read on that, even though it floated up. but Lexi was there positioning-wise. Oh, great save from Graber. Heads-up play.
Yeah, what a dig by Rachel Graber. Lena, big swing.
Layout grab from Jam, number 12, who played for the Monarchs last year. Great to have her. Wasn't Joe's, one of his shout-outs was Jam had 4 layout grabs in 1 point last game. Big collision on the in-cut. I don't see any hand signals yet.
No hand signals. Looks like we're potentially seeing a foul call. And one of the best things happening right now. Lena very content to keep the disc in her hands. Shouldn't interfere at all. And as we see that, get another look at that swing.
High layout grab from Jam, really impressive.
So conversation between McKenna and Beckett. Emily Moeller down there as well about if the disc should stay with Lena or if it needs to go backwards to Rachel Graber. So observers come in. After a little bit of conversation, we're going to send the disc back. Lena takes a couple steps back to her original place. Beckett and McKenna staying where they are, and we're just going to get started. Disc ahead to Montenegro. Like nothing changed. Maybe loss of a couple yards. Oh, and disc just a little bit too late. I like the look from Lena.
Inside look. Potentially.
Morris beams it ahead. Is it going to be a little bit far? No. Reeled in comfortably from Grace Maroon. Incredible look from the surge. Find Maroon scything downfield. They get their hold after all, and they are up 6-5 on the Indy Red.
Surge likes to push the pace on a turn. Very frequently looking deep almost right away to try to get the offense or defense, on their heels and take advantage of that.
Most important trend that we're starting to see, KK, is pressure being applied by the Indy Red, and it's important for one of the things we mentioned kind of at the top of our game, which was this is a smaller roster, 18 players deep, that the Surge have brought with them. We've seen just about every single one of those players play multiple points, leaning especially on some of their more high-usage players like Grace Maroon, Allie Milligan, Linda Morse. This is important to note because as the Red defense continues to kind of set its teeth in, we're going to reach the point where we still want breaks. We want to get a lead and advance it, but just starting to make those points last longer and longer and longer is going to be incredibly huge. It gives the offense more time to rest, too. Tilo taking off downfield. Swing not immediately there, but LG with a nice fill under a little bit of pressure from the Surge. Swing back to the high side of the field. Jean, the Surge are doing a great job of stopping anything upfield when their swings go to the sidelines. Jean reels the disc in the backfield off the dump pass from LG. There's a knifing cut and throw up the field to Mattamore.
Really nice setup by Mac and Jean with just a beautiful underneath throw for lots of yards there.
So, you know how this can be a tense show? Can you hold an upside down disc with the collar on top? Trying to
A pick was called, but disc is back in play. Squid looking for a handler reset. I learned from Jackie the other day during Rogue tryouts, the local club team, women's club team here in Indianapolis. One of the acronyms that they use, which is called throw a dump, be a dump, tad bad.
Tad bad.
Ever heard about that?
Never heard about that in my entire life.
Oh, great pressure from number 7, Epstein.
Yeah, Epstein not necessarily racking up the stats for the Surge so far, but watching this game with a closer eye is bringing kind of a high energy motor to the Surge. Somebody who's coming out and really, really, really making their presence felt. As we see there, gets in, not necessarily an intimidate so much as by going in and putting pressure in, able to force the two red offenders to go up early and both miss out on bringing in that goal. High throw, kind of high difficulty catch, but excellent effort by Epstein. We get another timeout.
Timeout, Surge.
Surge are going to put an offensive line out on the field, see if they can push their lead back to 2. Red are going to get to shift a defense out there, seeing Jello, seeing Eileen,
And Philly cheesesteaks are better.
seeing Risa Umeno out there. All players who are pretty hungry to go out and make a play.
Before the timeout was called, Moeller got a nice flick to the break side off to kind of get the offense going. How do you think the defensive line feels when you have a completion, you feel like you have momentum, and then you notice that a timeout was called?
So, having played my fair share of D-line over the years, it's the worst. But like when that timeout kind of gets called immediately because you're just like ready to go. Fortunately, I've never played in the UFA and never been in a position where my line can then be subbed out. Have talked to enough UFA players in Premier Ultimate League and Western Ultimate League players to know that it is the absolute worst because every single one of those players wants to go out and run. Linda Morse takes off, but no look downfield. High pressure from the red. Surge in their own end zone. Milligan searching for somebody to move the disc upfield. Has to take the dump to Grace Maroon. There's a throw through 5 players. Finds Lindsay McKenna. But these red defenders are swarming. There is not an ounce of breathing room right now. Big flick from McKenna to the far sideline. In a collision, Morris is going to call the foul.
One thing that I kind of noticed during the last Red game is that there are some players on Red who do have a tendency to make defensive plays, but also are making contact at the same time. And I do think that that's, something that you need to work on as an athlete, is to be able to make a play safely without making body contact. And so, it's something that especially players newer to a professional setting need to work. It's not necessarily something you work on per se in practice, body awareness, body contact in that way. It's more of like an inherent thing that you learn while you play. It looks like there might have been...
So I think we're getting a dangerous play call as well, which is going to
card.
result in a yardage penalty.
Exactly.
So Linda Morse gets to advance the disc about 10 yards as well as take it in the center of the field. It's our first such occurrence in this game. One of the rules that's newer to the PUL this year. And what this does, as you kind of take a look at the field, is creates a big sense of urgency as we see players start to catch up, because now your defensive mindset has to shift because the disc is just 10 yards further upfield and in the middle of the field. You lose some of that sideline pressure that you had.
That's interesting that the player who had the dangerous play called on gets to take it up 10 yards, but no one else gets to move.
At least initially they get to walk it ahead. Disc is up to
Haranet.
here in net. Swing to the middle of the field to Allie Milligan.
Haranet, a fellow Spartan. Go green.
You're not going to get it out of me, KK. And you can tell the way that these new rules are really disruptive to a defensive mindset, because as Hiranet reels in that goal, the red defenders, the pressure that they were putting in the backfield immediately feels like 10 to 15% lighter, and the offensive efficacy of the Surge goes through the roof. They succeed in subbing in their O-line. They get the hold, which is really a break, and they go up 7-5 on the red. Offense is kind of back on, the pressure kind of back on the red offense now, who are going to need to go out, have a clean hold. defense is going to have an opportunity to kind of recalibrate. You were talking about how, this is a no-contact sport, kind of in the way that basketball is a no-contact sport. There's a level of physicality that is allowed, and some players are content to deal with a little bit of, pushing and shoving. Other players are not. And in that situation, I think Morse is correct to make that dangerous play call. It certainly affected the way the rest of that point played out. All of a sudden, everybody had a lot more breathing room for the surge.
Right. Even in the end zone, you saw that Beckett was there guarding Hiranet, but was intentional about creating more space because Hiranet had the space and was running onto the disc.
PUL is up. Plenty of float on this one. Going to give the surge a lot of opportunity to get downfield. Tilo centers, and we see that pressure kind of immediately get laid on by the surge. LG staring at a 4-person cup with a little bit of a wall right at the top of that from Zoe Costanza, but doing an excellent job picking and popping through the middle. Just some of these quick repeated chisel cuts. They finally put a stop. And Tilo swinging on the swing set, moves the disc over to Matamore, takes it back on the high sideline. The more that the Red can do of some of this swinging, this popping, the more they're going to be able to spread that zone out, kind of seeing it more of a diamond now. There's a big old arcing, and it's blocked. Emily Moeller soars in, steals the disc from Rachel Mast. Big windup from the surge. That disc is floating. Did she get a foot down?
Looks like the observer calls that out, so it is a turnover. And
Yeah.
Tilo's going to pick up.
Heroic effort there from Chelsea Semper, but foot maybe just a couple centimeters on and just outside of the line. Probably more of a gift from the Red than anything.
Yeah, you saw
we're gonna take
Tilo kind of putting the pressure on, but pulled up right at the last second to make sure not to get in the cutter's way, because that can get really dangerous.
One of the things I love about this Red offense, especially in the backfield, is they are very, very adept at picking up some of those momentum stopping steps. The chisel cuts are getting them into the space, but getting those extra few steps without getting into travel is a huge skill, as we see Matamore really showing that off. LG, disc up to Tilo.
Surge's zone is really tight, trying to force Indy Red to make the big kind of around sweeping throws to the wings and deep throw like Tilo did the last time that Moeller got the D.
Yeah.
So really the best way to break this zone is to try to chisel through the middle. But they finally find that breakaway wing spot to Squid.
And with about 45 seconds left, the Red need to just do a good job of playing possession ball here.
And Surge switches to a person defense. Looks like there is a call violation, probably a stall violation. And the clock.
And Tilo so fast, looking for Jean there, but not able to complete it. And the Red have about 15 seconds to force a turnover if possible. Surge streaking deep. Great body there from the Surge.
So far, the last 2 quarters, a turn in the last 30 seconds. Oh, Abby tries to get that D, but there's a lot of body contact.
Yeah, Epstein a little bit upset about that one, and completely understandable.
No
Abby,
contest.
no contests that, and we're going to keep play going. But here with 0.5 left.
Yeah, so it's my understanding that the clock stops when the play stops, the last 2 minutes.
And there's a turnover. We're at zeros. That's going to be the end of the first half. A little bit of confusion with some of these rule adjustments as these players adapt to the PUL's new rule set for this year. Red, we're ready to pick back up and keep going, but at zeros, our score is 7-5. Advantage held by the Philadelphia Surge. And the biggest thing that we are seeing here is execution on the offensive side for the Indy Red. Able to go out and earn break opportunities, but we need to see that scoring percentage go up for the Red.
Into the first half has
They've
scored
been able to adapt to the high defensive pressure from the Surge, and the Surge, I think, coming back down to earth a little bit as legs start to feel the impact of all these points being played.
swag and free stickers.
At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if the Red, aren't able to reel some of these throws, some of these throws into, be a little bit tighter windows, and if they're not able to, secure some of these catches.
Winner gets a free disc.
We're going to take a quick break here at the half. We'll be back in just a moment. Philly Surge up 7-5 over the Indy Red.
Red throws a zone.
Minutes over a cup of coffee. Queen to H5 at the park. Thumbs up emojis, clapping emojis, confetti emojis. Loaded nachos at halftime. A spin dash for the win. Best 2 out of 3. And the time it takes to enjoy a slice or two, you can make a difference. Because yeah, mentorship sounds huge, but the truth is, it takes little to be big.
Today's game is presented by Tomio Media, delivering high-quality storytelling for Indy Red on and off the field. Discover what Tomio Media can do for your brand or team at tomiomedia.com. We are also brought to you by City Yoga. City Yoga School of Health and Yoga is a locally owned yoga studio nestled in a peaceful residential neighborhood in downtown Indy. Take a break from the grind and focus on your well-being this summer. Use code RED25, all lowercase, at checkout and enjoy your first yoga class free. Scan the QR code to book. Everyone's Joy Photography, UIndy sports team photographer and Indy Red's official photography company. Doesn't matter what you need, we got you covered at any event. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, or online at everyone'sjoyphotography.com. Today's game is also brought to you by Tappers. Hey Indy Red fans, when the game ends, press continue at Tappers Arcade Bar, Indy's go-to spot for well-maintained arcade games, craft beer, and great cocktails.
Down to the last 4 and halftime knockout. Final 3. Who will make the first move?
Welcome back. Still in the middle of halftime here in Indianapolis, Indiana. Philadelphia Surge visiting the Indianapolis Red, holding a halftime advantage of 7-5. And the story of this game was an early break train from the Surge, comeback from the Red, and from there, a little bit of trading holds until the Surge were finally able to secure a break near the end of the first half. KK, what are you seeing out there in terms of adjustments the Red need to make going into this third quarter?
It seems to me as though Red is being more successful if they are hitting both their inside and their deep options. I think that that's going to be what's going to keep us in the game moving forward. So we need to have people moving underneath, but also stretching it nice and deep. I would love to see how Abby can get herself more involved. Abby Swenson, I think she has a height advantage, but maybe lost a little bit of speed over the ACL recovery.
KK, you and I have both had those knee injuries, and the thing that takes the longest to come back is the confidence and willingness to assert yourself while trusting that everybody else out there is going to play as safely as you're kind of calibrated towards. And Abby, huge player, about 6'1", incredible speed, and very confident with the disc in her hands, but there's not anything that kind of replaces that, assertiveness that a player like her has and loses when coming back from a knee injury. I think you're absolutely right. It'll be interesting to see if over the rest of this game and over the course of the season, Abby's able to reclaim some of that magic that she had in previous Red seasons. Coming into this third quarter, we're able to kind of revisit some of the things that, we got from Joe Nelson Byerly in our conversation with him. And that's that the coaching staff and the players are incredibly in sync. The Red coaching staff has one-on-ones with every single player and repeatedly throughout the season to make sure that they know what player expectations are, goals are, players know what coaching expectations and goals are, and they're able to make sure that they're always playing in pursuit of those things. So as we kind of name some of these individual players, we know that they're sitting down with the coaches, the offensive coaches, the defensive coaches, and getting that kind of one-on-one work. And that identity is going to be huge. We get things going here in the third quarter. Red moving from right to left on your screen in case you're listening at home. And Person with just a little bit of a poach there, switch from the Surge, kind of a different look than their little diamond we've been seeing so far. And the Red, some of the cycling, there it is, downfield. Squid, pressure from the Surge does not matter. Lofts it up and over to Matamore, not in the end zone yet. Back to Tilo. There it is, fast as can be. The Red have scored, clean hold. It is 6-7, the Red.
I think that might have been the first huck that we saw Jean put up.
It's the first huck we've seen Jean put up, and that was the cleanest huck look that we've seen so far in this game. Perfectly out. Only Squid was going to get to it. An incredible throw, and then it's just a matter of swing, advance for the Red.
Nice power to lead Squid into space. And I really like how Squid was able to just hit the open person. Same thing with Mac, who wasn't really too worried about kind of straddling the line there. Wasn't going, am I in or am I out? But just was easily dumping it back, and then nice, easy score to Squid.
We see the Red do a little bit of what the Surge have been doing, which is play excellent fast break offense there. Squid, after dumping the disc off to Matamore, doesn't stay content to kind of drift into the carnage of players catching up. She continues to push across the side of the field, knowing that Matamore is going to hit that swing to Tilo. That kind of field awareness is huge, leads to an easy goal. And the Red, wasting no time, burn about 30 seconds of clock getting their score, and now we get to see another D-line opportunity for the Indy Red. Eileen Beckett down guarding Grace Maroon. One of the matchups that Joe Byerly told us to look out for. Collision from players. Red player just didn't see the incoming Surge player. Not necessarily a direct or intentional foul, but the kind of awareness things that we look out for. Quick high five to make amends. And we're going to get offense back started with Lisa Dang here, holding the disc for the Surge. Floating.
Little floaty. Oh, great defense by Isabel 42.
Really incredible awareness from Allie Milligan there. You see her accelerate through the end of that jump, adjust her body to the side, and flare out, stopping any swing opportunities from the red, who have now burned a couple seconds of stall and before they're able to get that timeout called.
Isabel was a little bit of a surprise for Indy Red this year. We saw her trying out, and it was kind of a, we should pull this person over to play with some of the better players during tryouts and see how she matches up. And really awesome to see her getting some playing time and get a nice, meaningful block to help Red out.
Yeah, Isabel deputy, but with that kind of a block, she might get promoted to sheriff here real soon. Red offense set. LG going to be picking up the disc. We've got Tilo sitting about 10 yards off in the backfield, more like 12 if if you're a Pythagorean theorem kind of person. Matamore at the front of the stack, but we see Graham Cunningham ready to shift up and in fact stops kind of that initial front of the stack look.
Cluttered in the
And
handler
disc is
space.
Too far. The wind starting to have a real impact that comes out with a little bit of extra speed from LG, and it sails ahead of Tilo. Attacking back up line are the Surge. And this is kind of a weird opportunity where now we're going to get some D-line offense. And there it is, Abby Swenson. She shows up. We were talking about her at halftime. Comes in for the help, gets the block. And the Red offense just has a regular point now. Goal line to goal line. Let's see what they can do. Been kind of a quiet game for Rachel Mass as we see her get looked off. Matamore there on the high sideline. Doesn't like the downfield. Pumps it. LG back in the middle. Nice swinging here from the Red. Taking their time. You can feel a little bit of the urgency that kind of comes with having had a turnover already. But disc moving comfortably for the Red. A huge, incredible layout. And who else but Faye Epstein? She's been setting herself up for these all game, and it finally pays off. Soars in for the block on Sydney Logren.
And Squid had the yards, but it was just the fact that Epstein was able to leave her feet that helped her catch up. What goes over 21's head?
Yeah, and McKenna really, really digging deep, trying to get there, but not able to pull the trigger for the layout.
It's happened a couple times now going in this direction.
Yeah, I think that the wind is starting to play a little bit more. No, looks like we've got dead wind, so I think throwers are just kind of throwing back and forth forever and not really to each other right now. Yeah, looking at our flagpole, just the tiniest little bit of disturbance there, so I think that these are players who are expecting some of these gusts and some of the pressure from the defense is setting in.
Great off the line throw, swinging it all the way around to make defense work.
What an incredible save there from Faye Epstein. Advances upfield. Is it going to be too far? It is. Red defender there just to make sure Rachel Mast ensures that nothing gets picked up. Thought she was going to go for the no-fly zone, but she's just getting the guns out.
I think K-Spot probably could have run that down, but it looked like she made a little hesitation to go underneath and then throw it up and just couldn't catch up.
This point's going to be decided by the team that can settle down. Tilo locks the backhand in, pumps it at the last second.
Morris playing great defense against LG to stop the strike cut.
Tilo not looking for Rachel on the swing. Gets her on the break side, able to keep her toes in.
I think Rachel probably knows that Tilo wants that break throw, considering that Tilo is a lefty. Nice high throw to Abby, where only Abby can get it.
Yeah, K-Spot backing her a little bit, probably starting to worry that Abby's going to take some of that deep. Is this throw going to come back in? No, eaten up by Grace Maroon.
Timeout.
Or rather, not Grace Maroon, but timeout taken by the Surge. They're on that high sideline.
Probably a wise timeout called. Looks like she's got hands on her hips, maybe a little winded. Get some fresh legs. It kind of seemed like Red came out really fired up, maybe to the point where it was making them play a little bit more frantic than how they want to, because as we've talked about, Red likes to play with a little bit slower pace. And so in order to play a little bit slower, they have to take their time to set up their cuts. They have to, handlers have to be a little bit more aware about creating space.
Without your support, please consider sponsoring or donating to Indianapolis Red by visiting indyred.org. As a 501c3 nonprofit, every contribution goes directly to
So we're going to we got the line rotation earlier in the point, and now we're getting it back. D-line personnel back out there for the Indy Red. We see Eileen, we see Jello, we see Risa, we see Berkeley. And the Red in a zone. Allie Milligan flared out to the side for the surge to help offer a different look, and it pays off immediately. Throw through the middle, finds Milligan. Little patience, stop and go, gets the disc in the middle of the field. Mark on from Humphreys, disc is up to Maroon. And you can tell that the Red zone has lost a little bit of its teeth right now. They're not getting some of the same pressure. Surge has succeeded in kind of spreading them out and is now finding the things that they're looking for, spacing-wise, angles-wise, as they put some of these throws up. The windows are getting a little bit tighter, though. McKenna in the middle of the field, kind of marshaling the offense. Trying to get cutters there for her. Throw is low. McKenna has to sit down to reel it in. Finds Lisa Dang.
Nice window to McKenna, who leads Milligan. And a throwaway from Maroon. Sorry, Milligan. And Red is ready to start working it quickly.
And I wanted Champ
Big layout grab.
I wanted Champ to put that so bad.
From Ellie.
Ellie
Number
Smith.
37. New to Red this year.
Pick is called. Champ quick to make sure that's recognized before we can get any stall tacked on by Graham Cunningham. Graham and Champ familiar with each other from the Ohio Frisbee scene, having spent time on Pride, each of them. There's Risa.
And Berkeley, who's from Bloomington, IU scene. And Beckett gets up for a big grab from Berkeley.
Big players make big plays, and Eileen didn't even look like she had to fully extend to grab that one. Jello needs to walk it back in bounds. That's going to be a travel because Jello didn't get back in bounds before she threw it.
I know that it's a little confusing with the cones further away. However, the pylon is right there. You would have thought that Jello would have seen the pylon lying there.
Yeah, and though Jello is showing us what her motion was as she was getting set up, the fact of the matter is that she threw the disc from out of bounds. That's going to result in a turnover. So this long point continues, but
Dang
Red
picks it up because she wants to get the disc going, but no one's ready.
Now we're in the backfield, spread out. Berkeley almost able to get a hand
We're
on
in
that one.
Callahan territory right here. I think Red's going to get a little excited.
And this is one of those moments where it's
And
really
it goes
tough to
up.
stay disciplined. Throw goes up, finds Maroon near the front corner of the end zone. Normally when we're talking about Grace Maroon at the front cone, it's because she's reeling a goal in, not trying to get her offense out of her own end zone.
Red's doing a good job containing, keeping them back here.
And it's one of those tough moments for a defensive coach. How do you play contain but apply enough pressure that the offense isn't able to just get anything they want to, getting out of such a tight space?
I wouldn't be surprised if it's,
And there it is.
That's an unfortunate turn by Milligan. I was just about to say I wouldn't be surprised if someone from Surge just hucked it deep just to get it out of the end zone.
And looks like we're getting a little bit of conversation, though. In fact, it was a stall that was called, a throw that probably came out to Milligan a little bit faster than they anticipated. Coming into us from our production team is that the Surge actually were able to burn their second timeout.
From your mom and
So they're going to maintain possession there near the front cone of the end zone on the right side of your screens at home. The Red are going to get to draw up a defense, and the Surge are going to get to puzzle together some kind of play to get themselves out of this situation.
That was a great timeout call from the Surge coaching staff to be able to understand and read their team and understand when they're in a tough spot and call a timeout before something bad happens. So shout out to Surge coaching staff. Great timeout call. We have a bit of a defensive personnel change as well. I think it appears as though maybe a couple change-outs for Surge as well.
Most importantly,
McKenna is still on the field, though.
And most importantly, that took the Red out of their zone defense. Huge rip from Linda Morse downfield. In the area, Lena Montenegro coming in to help is Riley Kuznicki, and doesn't matter, sky's the pile.
Over 3 Red players.
Yeah, Abby Thompson reels that one in all by herself, and now all of a sudden, Surge are just attacking in the red zone. Offensive line out there. Discus swung.
Red's a little discombobulated trying to catch up, and Surge is capitalizing. Isabel playing great defense on Morse. Still gets that nice tight window.
Yeah, this is one of those takeover points for a player like Linda Morse, somebody who's seen and played a lot of the highest level Frisbee possible. Exactly the kind of player that you want in this situation.
Violation was called by Morse.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a little bit of extra contact there from Deputy on the mark.
I feel like usually when I see a violation called, it has something to do with the stall, because if it was contact, or potentially Morse called contact, and Deputy didn't, and Jam comes up with a D, a floaty throw again in this direction. Red is off to the races, and Graber wants to put it deep.
And it's about 3 yards too far for Kuznicki to have a play on it. I like the look from Graber. A little bit of huck and play defense, never hurt anybody. And this is a fresh defensive line and an O-line that has now been out there for a while for the Surge. So Morse is...
Oh, that just slipped out of Morse's hands, maybe a little sweaty.
All I can think of is the he needs some milk meme, but instead she needs some chalk.
So now we're closer to the Red end zone. You have Jam picking up with Lena back in the handler space. Graber getting the play started.
And I love the extra minute there to set up that swing. Kind of in a gustier little bit of wind right now.
Looks like Surge is poaching the handlers a little bit, so they're going to try to work it. I like the around throw look from Lexi, but the defensive play by Hiranet, I mean, if you give Hiranet even a little bit of space, they're usually going to come up with it. They're a great defender. And a huge hug by McKenna for Morse. D by Montenegro, and there's no call. Clean defensive play. Strong defense by Lena.
Yeah, it looks like Lena took notes from the dangerous play earlier, also involving Linda Morse, and made sure to come in and play that one cleanly. Yeah, and we see Linda having to kind of watch it come in over her head, and Lena able to take a line to the disc that was never going to put her in contact with Linda prior to her making the play or in the process of making that play. Well sized up by one of the league's best vets.
You know, McKenna is a puller, so that backhand is a very strong throw for McKenna, but sometimes since she is a puller, can have a little bit too much float.
Yeah, and going into that headwind, you saw her kind of calibrate that disc edge so that way it would level out rather than kind of getting, caught and pushed back down too early. But as you said, resulted in a little bit too much float. And Morse is one of the best athletes you could have down there, but still kind of a tough line. Just too far for Lena, and the Red just give it right back. This is a
really
long,
tight
long
window
point.
to hit. I mean, that is such a difficult position to be in on the corner of the defense's end zone, trying to make that strike cut. So Red's going to have to lock down D here.
Yeah. Incredible takeoff speed there from McKenna, able to get up and get the disc into her hands. Back to Semper near the low sideline. Big around break. Is Linda going to get there? Layout grab, not in the end zone, but secures the disc. And Lena calling the travel immediately.
I think Lena wasn't sure where the end zone was because the pylon wasn't exactly where it should be. And they slap hands and makeup. And now disc is back in. Fakes a hammer throw.
Yeah, Linda trying to go every other, but not able to get it. There's this throw all the way to the side. And that's number 4, Anna Harnage, reels the grab in and wins this marathon point.
Did you see how Graber had defensive positioning on number 4, but they threw it anyway? I mean, that is a trust throw. And if you have that kind of around, you can, even if the person is well marked, if you're trying to get it up and around, you can throw it out to space. That's exactly what they did. It's a really strong precision throw.
2 things are true coming into this point as the Surge go up 8-6. Let's all remember a couple things. That was an offensive point from the start. That was straight up a hold for the Surge, despite the fact that we saw multiple O&D lines for each team. The Red here, offense is rested. 37 seconds, give or take, left on our clock, and the most important thing for the Red through the early part of this point is to maintain possession through the end of the clock. If they can do that and put themselves in a position where they're in the red zone, looking at another score, and most importantly, having run the clock down to zeros, they're not going to give the Surge another opportunity. This is one of those situations that where after a marathon point where you don't score, it's going to feel really easy to want to just load up a huck to somebody like Rachel Mast. Good flat mark from the Surge, though, stops that possibility from happening. Tilo moves the disc up to Squid. Too far. Turnover.
That we're the end of the third quarter, under 20 seconds, and another turnover by Red. They have to work on possession at the end of each quarter.
Yeah, big thing to drill at the practice weekends coming up. And no mark. Squid has to go over, and clock is going to run down. And because there hasn't been any stall on, the Surge with plenty of time to just work the disc as they want to. We're at 0, so the best the Red can hope for here is to force a turnover instead of allowing another goal. Disc in there to Moeller.
Jean was trying to get a run through D, but then that left Moeller for a wide open huck throw.
Yeah, Conroy was down there all by herself.
Called not in.
Pick called by Jean. I think Moeller got a little bit of help getting open all the way out to that high sideline. Conroy, disc in the middle, finds Moeller with the dump pass.
Hits a tight window to 45.
Yeah, Zoe Costanza with the goal, and kind of the nightmare scenario there for the Indy Red. You lose the marathon point and don't have the clock management you're looking for at the end of the third. Puts us in a 6-9 hole. Philly Surge now feeling a lot more comfortable going into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, it's only 3 points, but that's a nice separation because defense has to go out and now get 3 breaks. I mean, we know it can be done, but that's nice padding at the beginning of the last quarter of the game.
Indy Red is partnering with the UFA Indianapolis Alley Cats.
We're going to take a quick break, and then we'll be back with fourth quarter action.
Future professional ultimate players. In these 2 to 4 hour clinics, you'll learn ultimate skills, participate in drills, and scrimmage with players from the Cats and Red. The next youth clinic will be Saturday, May 30th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. More information can be found at the merch stand.
Everyone's Joy Photography, UIndy sports team photographer and Indy Red's official photography company. Doesn't matter what you need, we got you covered at any event. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, or online at everyone'sjoyphotography.com. Today's game is also brought to you by Tappers. Hey Indy Red fans, when the game ends, press continue at Tappers Arcade Bar, Indy's go-to spot for well-maintained arcade games, craft beer, and great cocktails. Today's game is presented by Tomio Media, delivering high-quality storytelling for Indy Red on and off the field. Discover what Tomio Media can do for your brand or team at tomiomedia.com. We are also brought to you by City Yoga. City Yoga School of Health and Yoga is a locally owned yoga studio nestled in a peaceful residential neighborhood in downtown Indy. Take a break from the grind and focus on your well-being this summer. Use code RED25, all lowercase, at checkout and enjoy your first yoga class free. Scan the QR code to book. And we are back here in Indianapolis, getting ready to start the fourth quarter. Philadelphia Surge up 9-6 on the home Indianapolis Red. As we kind of said ahead of the last break, last couple points there went about as poorly for the Red as possible. Number one, you lose the marathon point, that essentially took up the entirety of the third quarter. Getting multiple lines out there with multiple looks, not able to capitalize on any of those. And then, with 37 seconds left, you have a chance to kind of go back, get the lead back to 1, get a clean hold, and instead high floating disc with no one there to clean it up. Turnover, Surge just play team ball until they're able to, get the score. And most importantly, you have to pull coming into the fourth quarter. So you need a break here just to stop the bleeding.
Yeah, and during the middle of the quarter between quarters, McKenna puts up a big huck. Let's see if Morse can come down with this one. Pretty easy. Yeah. You saw between quarters, Surge was kind of under their shade tent, loose. They weren't necessarily huddling up. They were just fueling. They were hydrating. They were getting snacks. Where Red, you saw them circling up. There was like a seriousness to their huddle. And so now you have even an energetic difference where Surge is playing loose, they're playing free, and Red is feeling urgent, they're feeling the pressure, and that can weigh on a player.
Just got to remember here that this game is incredibly important to standings. PUL season only being 6 games, and this being a divisional game. One that the Red won last year. Big part of their campaign to get to championship weekend, and here the Red are already kind of in a hole, 0-1 on the season, and if they're not able to make some magic happen here in the fourth quarter, they're going to be down 0-2 and starting to really need to figure out what's going to need to be done. They're going to have to be staring down probably a 4-game win streak just to have a chance at sniffing the playoffs. That's going to help though. Roller pull not really playing out the way that the Surge want to, unless their goal is to get an early sideline trap.
I think that was an intentional roller pull. I do think we're going to see a trap here on the sideline.
If you shorten the field, then the downwind is a little bit less important. Tilo doesn't take the early swing, up to LG. Chisel right back from Tilo. Oh, I like that little tiny hammer fake from her just to remind everyone, I got this. No, don't threaten me with a good time. Tilo working in small spaces. It all the way upfield, and Squid steals it from Brittany, brings it down, rips it out herself, and that's an early and quick clean hold from the Red. Deficit's back to 3. If you're going to score fast, that's exactly what you're looking for. And, if that was in fact intentional strategy, then didn't really work out for the Surge. So we just need, 3 more of those, KK?
Yeah, pressure's on for defense.
This is one of the first moments where we've had, we're set up now where offenses are receiving the disc going in this, a little bit more definitively downwind right now, and we'll get to see how that changes the way that these defenses approach things. Eileen Beckett out there on the line for the Red, so she's going to probably be tasked with stopping anything downwind going up.
I don't know. Mixed signals.
Playing kind of that monster rule.
I think we might see a zone with this line. Champ Bustin to try to get that first throw stop. That was a great rundown. And the pressure is put on,
Maroon.
but 19 keeps it in bounds.
Yeah, toes in from Maroon. Lisa Dang, not quite in the center of the field, takes the swing. A little bit of down edge on these throws. Conroy moves it ahead. K-Spa. K-Spa to Maroon. Maroon keeps her feet in. We're knocking on the door now for the surge. Milligan breaks free. Nice mark from Beckett. Cunningham ahead to Morse. Morse doesn't find the around in time.
Had the space, but wanted the reset instead, trying to play chilly offense.
And these fakes to the flick side for the surge, trying to move these marks over and generate something like that. Conroy has to dive out of the end zone just to keep the disc up. Floats it up, and
there's a foul called, potentially maybe a trip.
So we're going to get some conversation. Morse making the foul call after some foot-to-foot contact and taking the tumble. Observer on that high sideline is Colby Parker, who is going to uphold the foul. So Morse is going to get the disc. She will have to walk it back to the front of the end zone, as it was not a strip call.
Disc is live. Morris going to take it at the end zone line. Immediately looking for a strike cutter. Now, Red has an interesting defensive strategy here. I saw them forcing one way in one 30 seconds and the other way in the other 30 seconds, so I'm not exactly sure what their force is. And looks like we're force home right now. So one thing that...
Number 9, that's Veronica K-Spa, reels the goal in.
One thing that
I,
having kind of been near Indy Red coaches this season, is understanding some new defensive strategy. We haven't really mentioned yet, we do have 2 new coaches on Indy Red, both offense and defensive coaches. And so even though we kind of mentioned from Joe, he's not really changing any strategy, but I do think that from our new defensive coach, he's going to be changing up some strategy a little bit more this year.
Abby and Jonathan and Jamie, I believe those are our shout-out finders. Shout-out to
Sam
all
Gabrielson
Indy Red
from
fans.
Chicago is the new defensive coach for Indy Red this year.
Let's make some noise for Red.
Yeah, I think somebody who's very excited to kind of tinker with defenses. This is a situation, though, down for just under 9 minutes left in the quarter, where you have to wonder how much is it worth tinkering with the defense versus going again what's gotten you results to this point. End zone situations are end zone situations, and that's always going to be the case. But, was that look enough to give the surge pause that was going to, in a way that was going to generate a turn? Tilo loads up, looks to Mass. It's the first time we've seen that all game, and all the bodying from the surge for nothing. Mast floats it over. Matamore. Mast to Matamore. Quick 30-second or less hold for the Red. And that is the most that we've seen of the hybrid players really assert themselves through this game. And you got to be wondering if Tilo's excited to have the connection with Mast open and moving.
Yeah, these last 2 offensive points from Red, it seems like they're content to do their job, and I think that they realize, we have, some of the strongest players in the league. We should be putting it deep to them. You just need to, put it out to space, but then trust that they'll come down with it.
So Red offense is doing what they need to do, going out, scoring quickly, scoring cleanly. it's going to be up to the defense now to go out and force these breaks, generate these break opportunities, and then get those goals out of them. It's the disc sails over midfield.
And even just looking at stats from the two teams, I know Red has only played one game where Surge has played 2, but Red has only 6 breaks versus Philadelphia, who has 19. So what, divide that by 2? Grace Maroon puts it up to Hiranet, who comes down with it nicely, but Isabella and Lexi getting caught up in the potential defensive play. And it looks like there's a play called, maybe a pick.
So disc not going to be in the end zone. We're seeing that conversation from the observer with Hiranet. I think the Red players kind of took each other out, though, so there's not necessarily an active call here that the offense has to worry about. Thomas sets onto the mark. Easy back to McKenna and right back.
K-Spa for the score.
So the Red are going to need to generate this upwind break so they can give themselves an opportunity to go get a downwind break.
Shout out to our game recorder.
We're seeing less of the zone because we're in more of this definitive upwind downwind situation, and it's kind of creating these scenarios where the hucking game is the most open for business that it's been for either team.
Shout out to Rachel Mast. Mast is fast. Go number 4.
Surge getting a defensive line set out there. Red offense ready to receive. The thing going in the Reds' favor most of all right now is that the holds are starting to come quick and easy. Probably a little bit less defensive pressure from the Surge, who don't need to do anything except hold out. Breaks at less of a premium for the Surge. High premium for the Red. Tilo disc in the middle of the field. We see that diamond set from the Surge, looking to stop any initial pull plays. Disc is over to LG, or to Jean. That's a drop. Jean sets the mark back on. Chelsea Semper with the disc. Getting the offense started. Back to Moeller. Mast and Squid trying to stop anything upfield immediately. Great adjustment from the Surge there as the disc comes in just a little bit behind the receiver. Harnage chases it down on the far sideline. Tilo, hard force sideline mark there. Great pressure. Disc is up, and it's anybody's disc, and Surge come down with it just out of bounds. Moeller ahead. Epstein with the goal. That's a break for the Surge, and it is all Philadelphia here in the back half of this game.
I think it's a good strategy by Surge to throw a Z, even if it's up or downwind, because they don't have to get a block. All they need to do is make Red work a little longer because they're playing the clock right now. 6.5 minutes left. All they need to do is to make Red offense spend their, take their time, which is, unfortunate led to a turnover. But the strategy there has nothing to do with putting on the pressure, but more of just playing clock.
When you're able to, I think you're absolutely right, KK. When you're stopping the pull plays from going up, which is how the Red have been able to generate their last 2 offensive goals, it forces you to stop and recalibrate and approach this like, okay, how does our zone offense look going through a downwind? We really want to get up and put it, but we don't have that look initially through the mark. It's guarded downfield. How do we recalibrate and approach this? And it succeeds in, forcing a bad throw. And now Harnage able to get down there and force instead of a throw to the center of the field. Force them to swing over to Jean. Advances it to LG.
Chiseling through the wall. Champ didn't go to there, which was... Mag did a great job keeping that in bounds. But dropped it when she hit the turf.
Yeah, the body control there from Matamore. working to keep her toes in bounds, but not able to secure the grab disc just a little bit too far for her to get securely. Pick is called as Costanza takes off downfield.
Muller's kind of left alone back in the handler space and decides to put it deep, which works out just fine for Surge.
And Matamore bids there, but not able to get a handoff. Costanza gets the goal in, the shoulder bump from her teammate. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Today's stream is brought to you by Discraft. The Discraft Ultrastar is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports. And we're back here. Score 14 for the Philly Surge, 8 for the Indy Red. Red at this point looking to just generate whatever kind of momentum they can. 5.5 minutes remaining. Definitely still some opportunity. Scores have been a little bit more fast here, but we'll see how they come out. The disc goes up for the Red. And kind of a mixed line out there. Tilo, LG, but we've got Eileen over from the D line. Abby Swenson, Rachel Mast, Jean, Squid. So really just Eileen kind of swapped in. Trying to get some size out there for the Red. Surge bringing their 3-3-1 zone, trying not to let anything happen.
As the clock winds down, I can't help but think about our home opener last year where we played Surge as well and lost by 1 because of a 30-second, last 30 seconds of the game turnover that Surge was able to score in the last of that game.
There it is, LG to Rachel Mast streaking from the middle of the field. Easy goal.
I do think that the weather last year was way worse. It was very windy, cloudy, rainy, so the game score was a lot more even, which tends to happen with bad weather. But then I think about how Red went to travel on the road to play back-to-back games against New York and Philly, and they won both games on the road. And that's really the main reason why they made it into the playoffs last year. So the season is not over for either team. Sure, it's been a rough beginning for Red, but as this season goes and this team starts to gel a little bit more, they are going to transform as a team.
Yeah, one of the kind of downsides of being such a travel-based team is, getting players together, getting lines together for, to get as many reps as possible is a pretty tall order. And Surge, lucky to have such a very heavy Philly contingent and bringing in, a couple people from the DC area, from the Pittsburgh area. It's one of the things that's kind of showing is the chemistry that these players have with each other. Pull goes up. Going to receive it just past midfield are the Surge. Lisa Dang, immediate look over to the far side. Grace Maroon. Beckett careful to pull off the brakes. Rather, put on the brakes. Swing to Morse on the high sideline. He rips a huge backhand. We'll see if that stays in bounds. It's not going to here. Not able to get there in time. And clock is staying ticking. So Red are going to need to get down there and get active because every second that ticks off is an opportunity gone as they look to try to pull some kind of comeback together.
Even if the outcome isn't what they want it to be, right now, even though this is not a focus, point diff does matter, right? For playoffs. Looks like there's a timeout called. from Red. So getting this game a little closer in score is meaningful.
Shout out from Anna. I will cheer not only for
We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with the last 4 minutes of our fourth quarter here. This live broadcast is brought to you by the Premier Ultimate League. The PUL is a 501c6 nonprofit. This league has been community funded since day one, and we are so grateful for the support. We ask that you consider donating to help us continue to transform and fulfill our mission. Head to premierultimateleague.com to donate today. Today's stream is brought to you by Discraft. The Discraft Ultrastar is the official disc of the Premier Ultimate League. Discraft, the world leader in disc sports. We're back here in Indianapolis, 3:45 left in the fourth quarter. Philly Surge 14-9 advantage over the Indy Red. Red currently in kind of that coffin corner position there on that trap sideline. How are you getting out of this, KK?
I think that Red in particular either wants to get it off the line or throw it deep and play defense.
And we can see that the Surge have accounted for that in kind of a couple different ways. Definite poach there in the lane, and Moeller there to stop any nonsense from going up downfield.
Oh,
and
Callahan layout grab.
She's been bringing the energy for the Surge all game, single-handedly at the points where that was toughest for them. Faye Epstein reels in a Callahan. And the Surge.
Mistaken communication from Red offense. I think that,
Epstein with a
Squid was looking to swing it around. Maybe you needed to throw another fake to get Epstein off. But, I mean, what an incredible read from Epstein. Layout grab Callahan. That's going to make a highlight reel.
The body language between these two teams right now could not be more different. We're seeing some individuals on the Red keep themselves up and active and are just ready to go out and play the next point. But, man, nothing more demoralizing than a Callahan in the middle of a comeback bid. Everything has been Philadelphia since near the end of the third quarter, and no signs of slowing down right now here. It's always interesting seeing which player is going to come out and have the biggest impact on the game, and there's a number of them you could point to for Philly, but Faye Epstein, I think, has a real case for game disc. Huge pull, buries the Red back in their coffin corner on this left side of your screen. Disc moved up to LG. Do a great job of sealing Tracy Lowe there off from getting the little pop cut there. Jean in the middle, moves it to LG. LG kind of single-handedly trying to get this offense moving. There it is up to Squid, up to Abby Swenson on the far sideline. No one else to continue downfield, though. Squid continues pushing the pace. She and Abby tubing a little bit up that far sideline. Back to Rachel Mast.
Surge doing their best to contain, finally caught up. Looks like they're now at person defense.
We're going to have a conversation about feet for sure there, but for my money, super far away from that sideline. I think LG was in, and everyone agrees with me. There it is. 3 players there for the Surge. One of them gets the block. Zoe Costanza.
Risky throw to throw, into the middle of the pack. Surge is not done playing defense.
Yeah, they kind of, came in and got revitalized and have started really, really showing that legs weren't going to be an issue for them after all. Moeller on the far sideline. Middle of the field to Harnage.
Taking nice, easy, short passes. Hitting the open person. And we see again that disc pop up going in this direction. Abby with the D. Looking for a reset.
And definitely some missed opportunities there. Big swing from Tilo. Wants Matamore all alone. Matamore choosing not to rip it all the way downfield to Mast, but instead
thought about it.
Taking her time, enjoying the fact that she's got infinite space. She and Tilo moving the disc up the field.
Get Mac in there every other, who apparently has no defender. I don't know what strategy that is, but Mac needs to be working it, which she is.
I think the strategy from the Surge there is if we can play 7-on-6 downfield, it's fine if we leave a thrower open because we just need to make the red burn a minute 10 of clock. And it's working.
It is.
Tilo, nothing in the middle. LG soars in, absorbs the contact. Abby Swenson there needs one more, doesn't get it. There's LG, muscles her way through the crowd. That's a goal. Abby Swenson to Laura Jerenser. Indy Red 10, Philly 15, 101, not Dalmatians left on the clock.
Abby Swenson finds Laura Jerenser, gives Indy Red their 10th point. Shout out from Anna, giving Indy Red a lot of love. You'll always be a great team. Nothing will stop that.
So the Indy Red, 1 minute left, down 5 at home to the visiting Philadelphia Surge. Both these teams taking big steps forward in terms of talent on the roster, but Surge today able to go out and kind of enforce their will through some windy conditions and really getting the most of this squad that they brought with them. I think every player up and down the roster has made a contribution at some point or another. But we've seen Faye Epstein, Linda Morris, Lindsay McKenna really go out and kind of have a huge impact on this game. Graham Cunningham swings over. Pressure from the red, not quite as present. There's a lot of space. Huge rip from Lindsay McKenna. Taylor Conroy there.
Hironet with space.
As well as Sarah Hironet, who reels in the goal. 16-10 to the Philly Surge.
McKenna to Hironet, 16-10.
Looking ahead on the schedule, both teams out of action next week. When we look ahead to week 6, Indy Red going to be visiting the Minnesota Strike up in Seafoam Stadium, and Philly Surge will be hosting the Milwaukee Monarchs as part of a back-to-back that the Monarchs have.
I couldn't help but notice this last point that Riley Kuznicki has clearly been given some of the hardest matchups today.
It's one of those things that's both a compliment as a player, and you're like, wow, you trust me to go take that matchup. That's incredible. Also, you're out there doing the hardest work.
With the least reward.
The least amount of reward. It's, it's like, okay, you go out there and guard Asia Wilson. It's like, what do you mean? Disc up from the Surge. 40 seconds left for the Red. Clock's not going to start until the disc is in play. Received by Jean Wong. To Tilo in the middle of the field as our clock gets started. Same zone set from the Surge. Going to force the Red to get out and look, and we're seeing a couple players we haven't seen yet. Chuck Wilson out there in the backfield with Tilo. There's Brittany Winter. Moves the disc up to Tilo in the middle of the field, up to Jean. These chisel cuts getting yards for the Red pretty effectively here. There's Chuck. Long time running mates with Tilo, so very, very comfortable in the backfield there. 10 seconds left in our contest. There's Matamore. Swings over to Tilo.
Possession, still gets to play it out.
So trying to score for pride here, the Indy Red. Get the disc up to Jean Wong, and that's a block. That's going to end our contest today. We are at zeros, so the Philly Surge bring home the W today, 16-10 over the Indy Red. They're going to go back to Philadelphia with another one in the W column, and the Red going to drop to 0-2 on the season.
Once again, we'd like to say thank you.
KK, there's any number of things I think that we could point to this game, but for me, I think it comes down to a few things. Number one, that early hole that the Red got themselves into was
Thank you to our volunteers.
just kind of spelled disaster from the beginning. Even able to go on a 3-1 run of their own to respond, it just kind of put them playing behind. And then I think a lot of this game centers on that marathon point. When
Yes.
you a point that ate up somewhere between 6 and 8 minutes of clock, You get through multiple line shifts from each team. It puts you in a place where you are, when you don't score that, everyone on your roster is tired, all in pursuit of 1 point, which ended up just being a hold anyway when we kind of go back and trace the lore of that point.
Yeah, we had chances during that marathon point, and just like Coach Joe said, we need to work on the execution, and I think in particular need to work better at executing end of quarter clock management.
Yeah, when you are routinely getting what should be the last possession at the end of a quarter, and today it was high floaty throws that got eaten up by the surge, or that sailed over receivers' heads where we didn't have someone to come in and clean it up on the backside. There were no less than 3 times where the surge were then able to capitalize, and if nothing else, just run the clock out, and in the case of the third quarter, put another point on the board.
Well, Charlie, it's been a pleasure.
KK, we're going to look forward to getting them in the next one. Again, your score today, Philadelphia Surge 16, Indy Red 10. We'll see you next time here with the Premier Ultimate League.
See you next time.